but it has happened. And I didn't realize, because this platform is new for me, I'm using this thing called StreamYard, which allows me to do a live, that when I was told by several people in the live chat earlier this morning that Sean Atwood was trying to get a hold of me, and one or two of you suggested that I should definitely go on Sean's show because it was a broader audience, and I agreed. I did not realize that I left although I ended the stream, I thought I ended the stream, but apparently it went on for another 2 hours or so. But I see that you guys are meeting me here, and I'm going to try to answer some of the issues that are coming up. And for those of you who are sort of just waking up to this horrifying information, I will be addressing these things. So one of the things that has been brought up is that the media refers to her as the accuser of Prince Andrew versus as the victim of Prince Andrew or the survivor. And the reason for that is there was no court case. And we know that it was a civil lawsuit, and we know that the terms of settlement meant that he neither denied nor, presented himself as being guilty or accepted guilt, and that is the way things are treated in a civil lawsuit, which is what Virginia brought against Prince Andrew. And so the reason the media keeps referring to her as the accuser of Prince Andrew is because it was never proven in a court of law that the allegations she brought forward were in fact true. We all know they were true. Now, we know that this is a photo of Virginia with the three loves of her life. Her three children, they are in their teens, and they have been estranged from their mother it seems like for at least since the beginning of this year, because according to Virginia's Instagram post, she basically, and this is her post, when she had that accident, that the year has been really bad for her. She didn't want to bore anybody with the details. And she actually said in this that she is ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. And I think I mentioned on Sean Atwood's show, and I mentioned on the podcast, the live that I did when Virginia had the accident and this photograph was first shown, that when she was in the hospital, one of the attending physicians, because the doctors keep coming through your room as they do their rounds, and it's not always the same doctor, that one of them said to her, if you don't take care of this issue, and I think it had something to do with her kidney, then you will only live for 4 days. And said that's where that 4-day thing came from. And then we know she was heavily trolled as a result of her having, let's say, not died in 4 days by a variety of people. And it was pretty vicious, and we all saw that. And so, Miss Lee, why didn't she bring criminal charges against Andrew? It is not the ability of either you or I or any private person to be able to bring criminal charges against any individual. That is left to the federal level. That would have meant that the United States government on a federal level would have brought charges against Prince Andrew and or any of the other people who were involved. Several things that I want to say about this. J.E.'s non-prosecution agreement, which he was given in 2007, that was signed by all of his attorneys and by, we have to remember that Jeb Bush was the, I believe he was the AG for Florida at the time. And we know that Alex Acosta was involved and he was told, hey, back off. He belongs to intelligence. So that the non-prosecution agreement actually reads that everyone involved in what was happening around J.E., meaning Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and really the list is very long, Alan Dershowitz, all of the people whose names we have heard throughout the years that we have been following this case, that all of them were given immunity. Therefore, it was impossible, no one was going to bring charges against Andrew on a federal level, not in the United States, and clearly not in the United Kingdom, where he is the son of the then Queen of England, who has since, she's no longer alive. His brother is now the king. And the only option she had was to bring a civil matter against Andrew. And what he decided to do was to settle the lawsuit. And that is why Virginia only had that option. She only had the option of settling or bringing charges against him, which she did in a civil matter. Andrew, if we remember, he didn't even want to accept when he was served documents for this lawsuit. But then, and he kept, he kind of made it seem like he was going to fight this to the end. Well, as we know, his mouth is bigger than his actions, because he did not fight it to the end. Instead, he settled the matter out of court because he did not want it to be dragged out. And it's my understanding that his brother Charles instructed him to settle the case, because we know that back in 2015, the case that Virginia brought against Ghislaine Maxwell was also settled. And J.E., when this started to rear its head, said to her, "You're very stupid to have brought a lawsuit and to have filed a countercharge against Virginia, who had filed a defamation claim against Ghislaine, who was going around saying that she was lying about the activity that she was reporting at the time." And so that too was settled. I know a lot of people have concerns that Virginia is no longer here, based on a lot of things. And these are legitimate concerns, because we have the situation of We have a lot of things currently in the news. We have the death of Pope Francis. We have his funeral. That is, if we're going to look at this through the eyes of covert black ops, and I think that's what we're doing, is we are looking at this through the eyes of a black operation, meaning that when these operations are employed, meaning it's a black op, meaning they want to silence a victim, they do look for an opening. So I understand why people are thinking like this: another survivor silenced. Yeah. So I understand that, and that's how it works. I mean, it does, I'm 10%. I'm going to leave that, while I believe that she was spiraling, especially with after the accident and the victim shaming and the bashing by the mainstream media, as I discussed earlier on Sean's show. There was, they really went all out to attempt to discredit her at her lowest point. She had just been in an accident. She has been physically beaten up, apparently, by her spouse, her ex-spouse. Those seem to be the bruises that we saw. She was no longer allowed to see her children. It's my understanding that she had planned to bring a restraining order against her husband, but that somehow he beat her to it. So another thing that people have been saying is, well, was he inserted into her life? And my answer to that is, she has a diary. You can find it online. She wrote it a very long time ago. She was sent to Australia by J.E. and Ghislaine Maxwell because they wanted her to conceive J.E.'s child and then hand the child over to J.E. and Ghislaine to have as their own. And for this, they promised her $200,000 payment that in regular installments. Virginia very wisely said to them, but you guys have promised me to make me a licensed massage therapist. And they said yes. And so they sent her to Australia. They sent her to, the country is escaping me because I'm still trying to absorb the shock. They sent her to go get this license. And then during the time that she was there, she went to a nightclub. She's young. She's 19 at this point. She sees a guy that she likes. That guy happens to be Robbie. She initiates the Thailand. Thank you, Gay. She initiates the conversation with him, and she writes it in her memoir, which she wrote before the J.E. Arrest of July 6, 2019. She wrote this a long time ago. And then she stayed with him. Remember, she met him in 2001. And she was with him until earlier this year. So we're 2025. She had 3 children with him. So I find it unlikely that he was placed into her life because, again, she made the initial contact with him, not the other way around. That is not to say, because I am reading the comment, it is not to say that somebody didn't get into his ear, inserted themselves into Robbie's life and said all kinds of things. That is possible. I'm not saying that that's not. We do know that he was abusive to her. I believe I shared earlier today that Virginia was scheduled to do some when she was in the news back in 2019 before JE was expired by himself, allegedly. We know that in his case, 100%, at least from my perspective, he was done in. That's my perspective. Most of you share that perspective. She was supposed to show up on a pre-planned event for Channel 7 in New York City, the ABC television station in New York City. And because she had just been beaten up by her husband, allegedly, I have to say that on this platform, they had to postpone it until the bruising on her face had disappeared, at which point they then had that interview with her, which is still on YouTube, which can be found. But yeah, he was a martial arts instructor, so you can only imagine what she's had to put up with. Very strong guys. Very strong guy. And I mean, this is just you know, from the beginning, when you go public, even like when you're just trying to survive something like this, it's always a thought in the back of a victim or a survivor's mind that they're going to get us. That's just normal. They're going to get us. So we live with that on a day-to-day basis. However, Virginia, despite the obvious fear and the obvious kind of like, we know this kind of stuff does happen, she continued. She fought. She made the world understand that this thing happens, that this human transportation situation, again, I have to remind you, Alexandra Acosta, who then became Secretary of the Labor, whatever, in Donald Trump's first administration, he was told to back off because JE belonged to intelligence. So this is an intelligence operation. So she was exposing something that was very dark, that was not just, let's call it, just transportation or just the sale of people to make money. This was a covert intelligence operation that was being run by J.E. Gillen with the help of Jean-Luc Brunel and frankly with the help of several other people who I do write about on a regular basis, who are not given their fair share of exposure because this person, this one man that you see here, I truly believe he is part of the deep state. In fact, his wife, who I believe her name is Mary, sat on was the chairman of the I may have to do another podcast regarding all of the globalist entities surrounding this specific case. And so when David Boies inserted himself as the attorney for Virginia and for most of the women who stepped forward, and then we learned that what he refers to as his private 007, who is J. Stanley Pottinger, who then became law partner with Bradley Edwards. If you read Bradley Edwards' book, you will see how this whole thing happened in a way that Bradley Edwards should have never allowed access by David Boies and Jay Pottinger. He should have never allowed them access. However, he did. And that's deep state covering for itself in the form of David Boies, who also represented not just the Clintons, and he never told most of the victims. He didn't tell any of the victims. In fact, some of the victims who stepped forward were alleging that they were gifted, let's call it, to Clinton. Well, they were being represented by Boies. Isn't that sort of kind of a conflict? I think it's a conflict. So this whole thing has been managed. We're now here, and Virginia, the whole thing of the accident and then the bus driver coming out in a very belligerent fashion. Oh, I'm going to fight this. I didn't see her in the car. I only spoke to a 71-year-old woman who, by the way, it was the 71-year-old woman who worked for Virginia at the farm where she was found unalived. That's who found her and who called it in. They have given us no real explanation. Where did they find her? They say the only explanation that we have been given is that her family put out a statement and that they do not find her unalivement to be suspicious. So her family put out this statement that I'm going to read to you. They expressed their sorrow, saying she lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of SA and S transportation. Virginia was a fierce warrior in the fight against SA and S transportation. She was the light that lifted so many survivors. In the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight. That's the only comment we have heard. That is the only comment that we have heard from her family. We will be hearing additional information because clearly there's going to be an autopsy. Clearly, they're going to have to tell us how she died. If they're claiming that it was a self-inflicted unalivement, they're going to have to tell us how was she found? Where was she found? Was she in the bedroom? Was she still in her bed? Was she in the bathroom? Was she in the kitchen? Was she outside? Did she take substance? Did she pew herself? Did she do something else? Was it like what happened to J.E.? We haven't heard any of this stuff yet. So that I'm definitely sure we're going to hear more in the next couple of days. And at that point, we can start piecing together her final days. That said, this is a difficult day for all of us. And this is a very difficult day to wrap our minds around the fact that this courageous girl, this incredible woman, lost her fight. But it does happen. What I want to say to everyone is that this is very triggering. And to all of the victims who stepped forward in the J.E. case, Please listen to me. This is the time where you must remain strong. I know that this is a heavy blow for you, as it is for her children, but especially for you. I know there have been other unalivements during the past couple of years. I am aware of that. You must remain strong. If you need to reconnect, because I know many of you have lost contact with each other, I urge you to go back together as a sisterhood again and remain strong. Do not allow yourselves to say, well, she's not here anymore. I don't have to be here anymore. No, you are needed 100 times more now that she is no longer here. So you must remain strong. In these moments of tragedy, this is when your courage, which you've all shown to an exceptional degree, and I know it has not been easy. It has not been easy. I know that in one case, J. Stanley Pottinger ran to somebody who was listen guys, he ran to somebody who was in the hospital. She had just attempted to do exactly what Virginia is alleged to have done. And he's there telling her, you have to accept this money and sign this. And she had just attempted to do suicide. I'm sorry, I should have not said that word. So that the only person that's going to care about each of us who are survivors of one thing or another, but specifically all of you who were brave enough to stand up against J.E. and against Ghislaine and against this monster that the world was unaware of until you stepped forward. Please do no harm to yourself. This is a time where we have to honor Virginia by our actions. We have to remain strong for her. We have to remain strong for her in front of the world. I've always used that as my motto. I know that it sounds like a corny saying, the thing, never let them see you sweat. But when you let them see you sweat, because we saw Virginia's decline and we saw her sweat via her Instagram post, which she really did mean it to be private. And, when the media sort of ambushed her and was still taking a photograph of her in the car in Australia and she gave them the middle finger, we saw that she was under pressure. I mean, she was still trying to heal and needed a little time to herself. It is difficult. Clearly, this is a big hit to take, but do not let them see you sweat. To stay alive, you must stay strong, because that's the only way to combat this. Without being strong, we can't fight the evil. Okay? So I know it's not easy, and it's a day-by-day thing where you just have to kind of gather yourself. But you have to do it. And if you have to reach out to each other, do so. Because the only other people that are going to really understand what you're going through is somebody else who was in your position as you guys were in the beginning. So remain strong, because this is the time that we need to, hey, you're not going to silence us. I mean, for me, I am not going to be silenced. I refuse to be silenced. So I want to address this, Heidi. So Heidi says she looked unalive in the photo. The other man, meaning Ron, on Sean Atwood's channel live stream, made a deep analysis. I watched it, and I'm going to tell you that, in my opinion, that was his thought. That was not, I did not agree with him. In fact, to be frank with you, I turned it off. I turned it off. She was unalived yesterday. She's not unalived from 3 weeks ago because there's no reason to delay the news by 3 weeks. What would have been gained? So I did not agree with him. She does look very badly bruised here, but the way he shifted the photo, I just don't agree with him. I just don't agree with him. I'm reading I'm reading your comments. So 11 and 1 is 12 says CIA assets appeal to their target, so they resemble everything that person likes, and the targeted person then thinks it was her own choice to be the first to approach the handler. Yeah, well, that's possible. But, this was a very impromptu thing. No one was going to really know. So, and she stayed with him for a number of years. I've had people insert themselves, meaning her husband, Robbie. I've had people insert themselves into my life that are sent to insert, and they didn't stay in my life for a very long time. So if that were the case, they would not have been married this long. I do want to read to you guys what she wrote to Donald Trump, because on her ex, and it was, again, as a response to the fact that the first document drop, which I believe is the only document drop, was a farce. So Virginia basically is like, she's responding and she's saying, Tara, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for your courageous words regarding the release of Phase 1 of the Epstein files. Your commitment to shining a light on these issues is not just vital for me, Virginia Roberts, but for every victim of human trafficking who has been silenced for too long. The disappointment we feel as victims is profound. In what is supposed to be a democratic society, where are our rights to freedom of information in MAGA America? It's disheartening to witness what feels like a dog and pony show turned political stunt. True democracy should embody freedom, yet we continue to find ourselves trapped in a system that overlooks our struggles until it's convenient for those in power. As tax-paying citizens, we have earned the right to trust our elected representatives. It raises uncomfortable questions. Does justice only apply when it suits certain agendas? I sincerely hope that Phase 2 of the Epstein files will not follow in the same path as its predecessor, but instead provide transparency and honesty about the evidence that caused so much suffering. Having witnessed the trauma inflicted upon the girl I once was, I truly believe that leaders like Trump and Musk aimed to, quote, drain the swamp, end quote. However, my faith is waning. I hope they proved me wrong and that justice will finally be served for the hundreds of victims, including myself, who continue to suffer from the PTSD inflicted by those we are told to trust. Thank you for being a truth seeker and for your unwavering fight for justice. together may we strive for a government that truly serves the people and upholds the principles of freedom for all. God bless you, Tara, and God bless America. Warm regards, Virginia Roberts. Now, she wrote this just a couple of, like on February 28th. She tweeted that. February 28th, she tweeted that. And as of February 28th, she was still fighting the good fight. Are we going to see a document drop, an actual document drop? No, because I've said to you, this was a government-sanctioned operation, hence why it was handled by three-letter agency assets, such as the attorney that I showed a photo of. So I'm going to just take a look to see here. Yeah, this. I'm so sorry that she stayed with him too long. She did. She did stay with him too long. And again, it's when you leave an abusive partner where you are at the most vulnerable for something terrible to happen to you. Which is why you should, at the first hint of any kind of abuse from either, if it's a man or if it's a woman, leave. Because it's only going to get worse. Which it did. Everything concerned with Virginia is very suspicious. Yes, of course. I mean, I was always scared that they were going to wait until afterwards to do something to her. Whether they choreographed this to make her eventually do this, it's possible. Now, I do want to say that earlier on Sean's show, someone made the suggestion that Virginia was programmed, meaning MK Ultra programmed, and I believe that, I've always said that this was an MK Ultra operation, and I have a good reason to believe this, but it was brought up that she was programmed to unalive herself, because when you are no longer of value and you might be doing things that perhaps are bringing attention, which again, when she had this accident, yeah, I agree, it brought J.E. back into focus, it brought Prince Andrew back into focus. The point that was being made was that sometimes this programming, this MK Ultra mind control thing that is still ongoing to present day, and of which I truly believe this was the same operation, because it was the same operation for the Franklin situation. My abuser's brother-in-law was the MK Ultra handler for Paul Benassi, Gary Ackerman, MK Ultra handler for Paul Benassi. And if that happened in the Franklin case, and we heard Rusty Nelson talk about the fact that he too was MK Ultra and subjected to MK Ultra tactics. So that, yes, it's possible that she too was given this thing where there are these instructions that sort of something happens and it triggers one. And there are case studies done on this. You can look them up yourself, where you unalive yourself. Did that happen with Virginia, or had the conditioning worn off? Because the conditioning tends to wear off at about age 30. That's really when this conditioning wears off, age 30. She's 41. I don't know. I mean, I agree that everything is suspicious. And I'm leaving a 10% window there to say that there was some, let's call it interference. But again, we have to understand that she's only human. She's only human. There's only so much we can take. She had lost her children. She's been physically beaten up. She got so incredibly trolled by people online and hated for many years, since 2019, not just since the photograph appeared on her Insta. When that happened, yeah, she got a lot of trolling there too. But she's been heavily trolled since 2019. And you can only imagine how much any of us would be able to put up with stuff like that. It's it takes its toll on our health, on our well-being, on our mental status. And then with the mainstream media turning on her, like she was their darling in 2019 and 2020, when this was an operation that was being handled from the inside. Okay, listen to my words carefully, because I'm concerned about sharing that aspect with you or anyone. When that operation was being handled by the inside, the media were on her side. The operation is no longer being handled, at least not in front of our eyes, like it was in 2019, like it was in 2020, like it was when she went after Prince Andrew in the civil lawsuit. So it's no longer being handled. That means that Virginia had to deal with this on her own, and she's estranged from her husband, who turns out was not a knight in shining armor rescuing her. In fact, he put her into another cage where she had to suffer some more. And she's estranged from her children, whom she adored. So I'm gonna see if you have any questions, guys. I'm gonna look at So Susie, what do you mean that's how rumors get spread? Can you elaborate? Thanks. Susie, rest in peace to a beautiful, strong soul. Yeah, courageous woman. Very courageous woman who broke a barrier into this type of intel operation that had never been revealed before. Because, if you recall, or if you know, when the Franklin situation surfaced, the victims were called liars and they were put in jail. Two of them were put in jail. And it's to present day, it is called a hoax. It was not a hoax. It, you know, it actually happened, but because of Virginia, the whole world is aware that these things happen. This is a very sad day. Hi Shivani, same Kirby. My response was to turn off R on Sean's platform. Yeah, I couldn't watch him because there was a lot of speculation, and if she had been unalived at the time, it would have been sad. And frankly, I just thought that added fuel to the fire. Is my opinion of people who were like discrediting Virginia. I didn't care for it. I just I just was like, yeah, I'm not gonna listen to this. I was just really, frankly, very upset over that. Yeah, Susie betrayed from all sides. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. When you have been SA'd by, you don't know who to trust. You don't trust anybody. And yeah, you will be betrayed by people because unless you get your bearings and you learn, because it took me a long time to A, get my bearings, and B, learn about boundaries, learn who to let into my life, learn who not to. So that takes years to learn. It took me years to learn. And until you learn, you will be betrayed over and over and over again, which then has the horrific side effect of making you not trust yourself and making you think that you are the problem when it's not. You're not the problem. It's so we have to learn from this. She will not die in vain, because if in fact this is a self-harm unalivement, we have to learn to remove these persons who are not of benefit to us. If they whether they're friends, because I remember I had a lot of toxic friends who just wanted to use me for one thing or another. And it took me a long time to push those people out of my life. I now am in a place where I can know my boundaries. And I can tell somebody, I don't even mind hurting somebody's feelings. In fact, I had a phone call from someone I know, and I've known this person and he made an unusual comment, and I responded. I said, that's inappropriate. I don't want you to speak to me that way ever again. And he was like, oh, okay. But 10 years ago, even 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I would not have known to do that. It takes a long time to teach ourselves how to protect our boundaries. And this, hopefully, because she will not die in vain. She just won't. She has left us with so much. And this new thing is we have to learn to not be in toxic relationships. We have to leave early, because when you leave and you stay around too long, it's too late. I'm going to see if there are any other questions. If you guys have questions, can we do like you do on Sean's show? Can you put Q? Because there are too many comments here. I don't know how to go through all of them. Can you just put a Q if you have a question? Yeah, I still need to learn to be assertive. It took me a long time, yeah, and it's an ongoing process. But the good thing is that you are aware that you need to learn to be assertive, because that is how you build this kind of protective barrier between you and somebody who means you harm. And by the way, you will know when somebody is not good for you, because our instinct kicks in. If you are with somebody and you feel like your energy is being drained, that person does not have good feelings for you, because you can feel it in your gut. Learn to trust your gut, and please learn that it is okay to be assertive. Never allow anyone to make you feel lesser than. And that goes for all of us, okay? Dusty, that's really good. Teach your kids and be diligent. We know that Virginia's parents were not the best parents. Her mother and she had a horrific relationship. A lot of us have had a really bad relationship with our mothers, which is really sad. But if you are from that, you do teach your kids, and you should be diligent. So what is this? Lorraine, I asked my sister, who's 5 years older, about Dr. Miner, head of the DSS, and she remembered me screaming so hard. Yeah, okay. So you were in a situation where something happened and you left. Okay, so you screamed and are there any questions here? Will I be okay? I am discombobulated clearly. I adored Virginia. I respected Virginia. I will always respect Virginia. When I got up today and I saw my inbox flooded with DMs to tell me what happened, I couldn't believe it. And when I went over to Sean's show, I mean, Sean and I just immediately began crying. You know, and then I somehow I didn't even know how to end the stream, and all people heard for about 2 hours is me crying while I'm on Sean's show when other people were talking. So, Sandra, I'm going to tell you what worked for me. I don't believe in psychiatry. That's just a personal thing. You might believe in psychiatry. I taught myself. And the way I taught myself, to be frank with you, is I began to write it down. I wrote a memoir. In my case, I eventually published it. Virginia also kept a memoir, which helped her. You don't have to be writing a memoir or a diary for publication, but it does help to sort of lessen the burden that you're carrying if you put it pen to paper. If you jot down your thoughts, you keep a diary, you write about it. That helped me tremendously. And so some people choose to go to analysis. If you go to analysis, make sure that you bond with that person, that you feel that you can trust that person. I think that's very important. I mean, I don't think there's like a one way fits all answer to this, but the fact that one knows when we're in a state where we are so overwhelmed by our emotions of guilt and being sexually too free with ourselves and being too vulnerable, at least you are at the place where okay, you know what? I need to pull myself together. I need to get myself to a place where I'm not feeling this. You can do it on your own. You can go to a psychiatrist, but everyone's answer is different. Here's the thing. You can do it. And I'm still doing it. Every day I will have moments that are not good because PTSD is a real thing and it will last forever. But what I do is I'm like, oh, okay. So I got myself a treadmill in my apartment. And when I'm really stressed out, I will get on my treadmill. And I will get on that for 15, 20 minutes, however long, until my mind, my mood changes. I put on some music that I like. I will do something that I enjoy, even though I don't want to do it. I had a woman tell me the other day that the most she could get herself to do, having left her abusive husband, was take a shower. And that is okay. There are days that you're not going to want to do anything, but the way I handle it is I do not allow myself to go the whole day feeling down. So that any little thing that I do, whether it's I wash the dishes or I clean the apartment or I'm finish a task that I on my to-do list, I pat myself on the shoulder, on the back, because I know that nobody has my back other than myself. So I hope that that has been helpful. And let me see if anybody else has any comments here. Here, Susie agrees. Yeah, right. It helped me tremendously just writing. Is there a question here? Let's see. Shivani, there's so much dishonesty disguised as if it were truthfulness. Will anything really truthful hit the news about the loss of Virginia? I think we'll at least hear the cause of death, because all we hear is that she was, quote, she's found unalived. I think we'll hear stuff. It's heartbreaking. I think for myself, I'm kind of in a state of shock. But I believe that we'll get something. And guys, let me share this with you. I have my own way to get information, as you guys know. So if I see that we're not getting the truth from mainstream media, you know I'm going to tell you on one or all of my platforms, okay? So we will know the truth. Cardinal, that's a weird name for you to have at this time. You sure you're not just opposition coming into the... Okay. Well, at least I got a chuckle after crying for most of this day. I'm sending you so much love, of prayers and peace and protection. Kirby, please take good care. And thank you for sharing yourself with us. I know I am so grateful. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So, yeah, I mean, if something is fishy, if something is not being told to us by the media, you're going to hear it from me. Let me see what this Fiona. Hi, Fiona. I feel Virginia was used to expose. The energy in the last week has been horrendous. The demons, yeah, the demons got to her. That's well said. That's well said. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going over your comments here. I think so I mean, look, we do live, and I see a lot of you commenting similar. We do live in an unkind world. It has been intentionally made this way with the movies that we watch, with the music that we listen to, with the books that we read, with our public school education, whichever country we happen to be in. It has been made in a way that most people are like, me, 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 me. There has been a lot of divide and conquer. There has been a lot of obstacles thrown in our ways. Any grassroots movement has been infiltrated by these horrific agencies that we talk about all the time. So yeah, that is why we have to learn to spot things. And the way I do it is I look at patterns. I'm always immersed in history, but I refuse to listen to fake history. So that, for example, on Amazon, I'm looking at biographies and they're like, oh, the biography of this or the biography of this or the... And then if I start watching something and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm not... Because most things are told to us from the vantage point that they want us to believe, which is why I immerse myself in my own research and I bring that to you on all my platforms, because I got tired of living in a fantasy world where, we were taught, oh yeah, Prince Charming, blah, blah, blah. So, this is a sad day. I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. However, I encourage you to chin up, okay? Don't get involved. There's going to be a lot of trolling, a lot of negative commentary about her. I encourage you, for your own peace of mind, don't get involved with the trolling. Don't get involved with the negative stuff. Try to keep the negative stuff away from you. Away from you. Because if she's taught us anything, she's taught us that. She was able to fight the biggest transportation ring of our generation. She was able to fight that. But she wasn't able to overcome her bad relationship with her spouse. So she's taught us this. Even if it's just for her memory for the next couple of days, I know it's difficult because I'm the first one that wants to jump in and fight on her behalf. I am the first one, but I have had to stop myself from responding. If anything, I just turn it off. Just like I said, I didn't like what Ron was saying. No offense to him. I know he didn't mean harm, but I'm like, okay, I'm not listening to this. And I just move on. So we just have to, this is so, the pain is real, but our resilience is too. Yes, yes, yes. We are resilient, but we're also human. So allow yourselves, if you're going to be sad, allow yourself 1 hour to be sad. The most I have allowed myself to be sad is 1 day. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll allow myself 1 hour, and if it's a particularly bad day, I'll allow myself 1 day to be sad. But when I get up tomorrow morning, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I do a whole list for myself of what I have to do so that I don't lose touch with my inner self. So do that too, guys. If you are having a difficult day and you're like, okay, this day is messed up, make a list for yourself. Email it to yourself. Do something with it. And say, okay, I'll deal with this stuff tomorrow. But today, I'm just going to just chill, even if it's just to binge on movies or podcasts or whatever you want to do that. For me, it's like, here. I mean, that's how I get through my bad days. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to be sad for an hour and then that's it. And I time myself. And then I'm like, okay, it's 1 o'clock. By 2 o'clock, that's it. Just keep going. And I keep going until I have to go to bed at night. I keep going. And there are days that it's more than that. I'm like, okay, that's okay. I can pick it up tomorrow. Dusty's like, negative being allowing doubt to enter or let someone, yeah, exactly. Do not listen to the voices, because you will have these voices around you telling you all kinds of things and discouraging you from doing what you feel is the right thing for you to do. Do not allow negativity into your life, even if it's your own family. I turned my family, I became deaf to their words because they were so damaging to me. I had to learn to turn their voices off. And even to present day, my mother is long gone. The people in my life who were cruel to me are no longer part of my day-to-day, but every now and then I will still hear them in my mind, and I will turn it off. So you have to just keep going, okay? Listen, guys, I want to thank those of you who showed up for this second podcast. I will keep you guys posted. Virginia is an angel. She has always been an angel. She was the nicest woman with the biggest heart. She will be missed, but she will live on inside of us forever. Virginia, we love you. And with that, guys, I'm going to end the stream. And you know, we're a tight-knit group here. We will keep the conversation going, okay? And let's move forward to show the world Virginia's dignity, Virginia's heart, and her strengths, okay? Okay, guys, have a good day. Thank you. Bye.